it.
Okay. And remember what happened last time. Always tell me if it's not moving, please signal to me so that we don't leave it stuck. Okay. So last time we talked about we dive into a total structure of a research proposal. If you can peruse through what we did last week, was a total layout of a research proposal. And one of the take home that last week was that a research proposal, a research in general, sorry, not just a proposal, is a process that is driven towards a destination, and that destination is your output, your outcome, what you're able to find. Now, and we saw from starting from idealization towards having a topic down to citation and referencing. We saw everything last week. Now, we're going to move further from what we did last week. And remember that the recording is already on YouTube for you to watch and rewatch. Now, we're going to see another aspect because it's a process. And for that process to work, this very aspect of our lesson now is what actually makes that very process to be achievable, assist you to achieve that topic, to solve that very problem, and to address your research objectives and your main research objective. And that's what we're going to be talking about now. And that process lies within some of these components. And let me say it up front. We're going to be talking about the core component of research methodology, which involves your philosophical, research approach, strategy, and methodological choice. That is what we're going to be seeing today. Okay? Now, in the introduction, it says that the research methodology provides the critical procedure and component. Because it's a process, and for that process to work, there are some steps and there are some components you need to consider. Am I on the introduction? Sure. So there are critical procedures you must take, you must follow. There are some steps. And I said this last time that research is a duplication. That is why at the end of the day, you are asked to write a section that says reliability and verification and durability and all the rest of them, to show that whatever you have done as a researcher, can it be replicated? Can someone still find similar, get to the same findings or similar findings? Can it be how rigorous the process is? Is it believable whatever you have done? And when you have followed when you have implemented your research methodology very well, procedurally, then you can now you can probably say that your research findings, the rigor and the rigor part of it has been followed. That no matter whatever anyone says, anyone does, he or she can still do the same thing and find the same outcome using the same population. Maybe a little bit different because your participant and your observation can change. Okay, and then there is a methodology, and also it's a methodological and a systematic framework. So your research methodology provides that very framework that guides you to conduct your study, to conduct your research. So so now in that your topic that you have a very interesting topic, catching topic, if you don't have the proper methodology, you didn't use it well, you didn't apply it well, then you conducting that research will be challenging. So, however, to understand the critical procedures and component of research methodology, this lesson follows standards and methodological structure. Now, let me say this in, guys. Remember your methodology, you have that section of research methodology, right? That's what we're seeing right now. Bear this in mind. In that research methodology, okay, there are different structures that is out there. You have your oaths, you have your Criswell, and all that standards and all that. It's very important for you to use any of those to lay the foundation of your research methodological chapter, section of your proposal, and chapter of your study. Very important. And one of the things is going to help you to do when you follow any of them is that it's going to enable you to not to exclude the basic, the fundamental element of your research methodology, because these structures exist to say, okay, when you want to do this kind of research, look at the component you need to consider. You want to do that this kind of research, look at what to consider and what not to consider. So it will guide you towards choosing the right method, applying it, and all the rest of that, and all the necessary component that comes with it. So we're going to base our own on research onion developed by Sanders and Etta. Okay. And then when you look at that research onion, the first phase of it is philosophical background, approach, strategy, methodology, and all that. So we're gonna be seeing on this lesson, we're gonna be seeing the philosophical, different kinds of philosophical that you can apply depending on your research topic and everything. Approach, strategy, methodological choices, and the three key words: what, why, and how. So now, looking at the overview of your research methodology, which we have seen that is a critical procedures and component of any scientific research or inquiry, that tells you how to carry out your research, that guides you on how to carry out your research, and the components to use in carrying out your research. And that is essentially what research methodology is all about. It's your manual. It's like a manual that shows you what to do in your research. So it provides a systematic framework of structure for conducting, analyzing data, interpreting this and discussion, as well as reporting your research findings. So your research methodology guides you to know, okay, how do I carry out this study? Okay, now I've carried out this study. What do I do? How do I analyze the data I'm going to collect? I'm going to observe in this research. How do I discuss it? How do I report it? Whether you are reporting it through presentation, through publication, and all the rest of them. I'm letting your findings known to the stakeholder, pushing it back to the people who have collected it. Look at what I found out in the area. Also, it encompasses the approaches and the technique deployed by the researcher to address the research question, achieve the research objective, and draw meaningful conclusion. That is so you can see. And also it involves approaches and techniques such as your quantitative, your qualitative, and your mixed method. You can see that the central part of the central part of your research process lies on your methodology. That no matter how beautiful, how awesome, how interesting your research topic and objectives may look, it goes down to your research problem statement. How refined? There is an issue here. We need to investigate about this thing. If you don't use the right methodology, you arriving to your meaningful conclusion will be challenging. So our research methodology show us the map. It's a compass. It's a guide through which we conduct our study. Are we following, guys? So let's dive into the philosophical background of a research methodology. Now, there are, in some studies it's called philosophy, some is called um paradigm, but whichever one is called in any of those um authors you choose. However, what is very important that your research philosophy deals with what the underpinning belief and assumption that shapes the research perspective and approach to knowledge creation. So it is a system of belief. It's a belief system that shapes how you approach, how you are going to interrogate, how you're going to find, how you're going to navigate through your research. What are you searching for? What kind of knowledge you are you going to are you going to what kind of knowledge, what kind of belief system is within your research area, both from the part of the researcher, move towards your participant, the environment. Now, it says what it uncovers how the research is conducted to establish known and unknown facts. What is known and what is not known. Among the philosophies are this. You have your ontology. What is an ontology? It refers to what an assumption about the nature. So when you are trying to do the reality of a nature, of the universe, of what is within us, then what kind of philosophy would guide your study? It's ontology. To study the entities within that natural environment. Then you're talking about what? That will enable you to interpret your data. That will enable you to do what? To understand uh, uh, um the nature, the entity in terms of the business, the environment, the management, and everything. How the nature affects their doings, how the nature in the environmental factors affect what they do in business, what individuals do in life and everything. So if your research is trying to establish is within the natural phenomena of the impact of natural phenomena around us, and what how the things that happens around us influences individuals and everything, make decisions and what we're talking about an ontological philosophy. Epistemology kind of research is all about assumption about knowledge acquisition, which got to do the type of knowledge that's being produced in a research towards what? Generating ideas, generating data, and interpretation of data. So when you are trying to acquire knowledge about a given environment, about a given object, about a given situation, to understand what happened, the knowledge of this of a certain issues in your research. They're talking about using this kind of philosophy. What about pragmatism, which offers a perspective that value on practical outcome towards problem solving. So this kind of belief deals with what? When you want to when you want to quickly solve, drive your solution in problem solving. What kind of methodology, philosophy do you use? Pragmatism. You have your and on and on. So you look at when you want to look at the values and ethics in life, the ethics of your risk, the ethical impact of so and so kind of topic. What is ethical in a given environment? What is not ethical? What is this and what is not that? You're talking about what azologies kind of philosophy. Talking about uh, objective, subjective kind of research, where individuals' perceptions and interpretation shaping their what they see and what they doesn't see. Talking about philosophy of objectivism and subjectivism, and that is it. So what this methodology enables you to achieve that when you are looking at the belief system, what do you really want to find out within that? What exists in there? And what is not known. It's okay, fine. I want to understand how people, the perception of the people, their belief system, how cultural environment affect what they do, and other. Then you're talking about which one of them of this philosophy suit into that. So also we have positivism research, which assumes that knowledge and experience is what is objective, which are measured through what empirical process. So you want to establish people's experience of using this particular system. You want to look at a research that evaluates experience of end users, people's experience in testing. For example, today we have generative AI looking at users' experience. The system was built. You want to use user's experience. That is the kind of philosophy you need to do. Interpretism shows the social realities have a subjective meaning. It means that individual reality is based on one's perception. Meaning was that our social reality have a peculiar influence on us. So you're not looking at it. This one is look at this the subjective aspect. This one is looking at the positivism is looking at the objective aspect. This one is looking at on a subjective environment. So looking at it from the holistic aspect. So it's really from individual aspect. Critical realism, which divide into real and observable world. Real world is interdependent of human perception, and the observable world is formed by one knowledge and experience. Yes. How does what your situation today define how you react? So you want to look at how people's social environment determine their personality. This is the kind of philosophy you need to use, and others. So, but this number of philosophies we have looked at here are kind of commonly used philosophies in information system, which also when you look at the research onion, they're also included. So these are the kind of so when you in your research now, when we drive it home now to your research, you need to look at what informs you to make a choice on any of these. It depends on what the topic. What do you want to achieve? Your topic and your objective. If you want to look at people's experience of a particular situation on a particular system, Then you go through this philosophy to look at the one that deals on experience, to understand people's experience, belief system of experience. If I look at people's the impact of their social environment on how they perceive this particular system, on how they perceive that kind of system. Look at what you go through to say, okay, which of these philosophies fits into this outcome I am trying to achieve. So that is how you can be able to do what? To make the right choice on any of the philosophies philosophy to use. Guys, are we here? Okay. Any question? Remember that your research, you need to be able to discuss these things in your research. So please pay very attention because you're going to apply it in your research proposal and a greater part of your research methodological chapter of your study. Okay. So we go on. So after you have discussed the philosophical aspect of your study, let's also talk about the theory, the approach. Under this section, we have three standardized theories to choose from. You have your inductive, deductive, you have your inductive, you have your abductive. Each of these have a significant role they play in your research. With the first one that says what deductive deals with what a research where the researcher starts with a theory or hypothesis and then collects data to test or to confirm or to refute the theory, commonly associated with what the quantitative research method. Now here it's where, okay, no, there is an existing theory. One of the existing theory today, you have your arrow term, which I am some of that guys researchers developed. You look at, okay, how does the factor that impact people's adoption of technology. You have your term, you have your arrow term, you have UTA and all the rest of them, right? So now you pick up any of those existing theories, and now you formulate hypotheses around those components of those theories. Now, through that, you form the hypothesis. You form your questions around those components. Now, you go and test. What are you going to test? Okay, fine. Looking at arrow 10, right? So okay, now which of these to determine if these components in this theory actually influence people's adoption of technology. Now, and in that case, when you want to do that kind of research, the kind of theory to use is what? Deductive. Inductive involves collecting, analyzing data to develop theories or a theory, or making generalization based on observed pattern or trend, often associated with quantitative research or grounded theory. So when you are trying to say, okay, find the outcome of your study is to develop a theory that will guide decision making process. So in that case, what do? You're inductive. And abductive is less common, but valuable approach when researchers generate hypothesis or explanation based on observation and then seek evidence to support or to refute the initial idea, contribute to theory development and exploration in research. So you find out this is a combination of both. When you have a theory and that theory, you do what? You improve on it. And then when you use it to do what? To go and then do your observation to check, okay, does it truly fit in or not? What? And then through which people can refute or support that And then you're able to modify to have your what based on whatever you have found, and look at the theory people, the components of the theory people are in support. Okay, that becomes your what? Your abductive theory. So look at your topic. So how do you make this fit into your study? How do you make a choice between any of this? How you can make choice among all these theories are this? You need to be able to understand your topic, okay? And then understand what you want to achieve. And then to see, okay, which of these aligns to that? Are you developing a theory or are you testing a theory? So when you're developing a new theory, which one do you use? Inductive. When you're testing existing theory, which one do you use? Sorry, framework, for example, the existing model. When you are developing a new model, framework, let me put it that way, which one do you use? Use your inductive. When you are modifying existing, you are testing existing one, use your what? Deductive. And the combination of both is your abductive. So now, remember, we are basing our lesson on the foundation of research onion. When you look at when you look at research onion, there are different kinds of research strategies, and there are some strategies that are common to quantitative, qualitative, or mix. We're going to look at them individually. So now, if your study is based on quantitative, remember, quantitative is a research method that look at what? Quantitative, large number of data, large number of participants. Quali looks at fewer number of participants. So now, in your strategy of your research, you're using a quantitative method. You're going to look at things like your descriptive research, which this on the part of what? Descriptive research aims to describe the characteristics, or behaviors of the population or the phenomenon. It involves collecting data to provide a snapshot of the current state of affairs without what? Manipulating the variable. In this study, 10 people says this. That is your word. They are describing the characteristics of your population. In this study, 10 are female, 20 are male, 20 have a first degrees, 5 masters, 15 honors. That is what the attribute of your population. We are describing that. Correlation kind of a research is what? When you are trying to establish the relationship between variables. Okay, now, because there are 20 male, 40 female, what is the relationship between the gender and this question? What is the relationship between their level of academic qualification to that to this question. You're not trying to establish a relationship between gender to that question, this question to gender, this question to age, this question to this and everything. So okay, fine. That to look at the peculiarity, the deeper part of that. Developmental design research focus on what? Studying change over time within individual or group. It what involves tracking, analyzing developmental process. When you are trying to look at overview research, whereby, okay, fine, I want to understand the perception of these people about this very system over time. You look at their perception in January, you look at it in February, look at it in March, in months, to know whether is there any changes in this in their perception of this very system over this period. Observational study, which involves what? Observing and recording behavior. You come to you go to a class, you want to understand you want to observe how things have been done, how this lecturer is handling this module, how the people are using this system, how are they managing it, how the people in the factory are doing this and that and that. You sit there, you observe, and then you take your notes, you make your notes as you're observing, based on what? The actions that is being taking place in that environment. You have your survey research, which involves collecting data from a sample of individuals through a questionnaire or an interview. A survey uses what? Closed-ended or open-ended questions to gather information about attitude, opinion, or behavior, characteristics of a population. Remember, under this survey, you can say, okay, fine, I want to understand their attitude about on this very system. I want to understand the opinion about this very system. For me to do that, I'm looking at this group of this population, and for me to do that, I give them questionnaire, and that very questionnaire looks at on that opinion. And now, what do they do? Is it gonna be open-ended question? When you say open-ended question, what do you mean by open-ended question? Is that what? You start the question, you ask that very question. It doesn't end there. They have the ability to expand. Okay, say fine. Tell me about what is your opinion about this system? For example, about generative AI. And now you give the options. And now you say, okay, explain your opinion. You're giving them options to take, right? For example, let's say on a questionnaire, give them an option to choose from. Maybe two, three, you have three, four options. And each of the options they have selected, they need to justify their options. That is what that is what open-ended. That's what you allow your participant to add, to express themselves more than what you provide, the options you have provided. Okay. And then on your close-ended, meaning what is your observation about this system? Your opinion. Those options you give to them, they need to select from that option. They cannot add or subtract from the options you have provided. That is close-ended what? Question, which can also be used on an interview or 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 questionnaire. However, most times on interview questions are based on what? Open-ended. Many of the interview questions are open-ended because you want them to express themselves more. than what, because more than more than the options you might provide. And mostly on interview, you don't really provide options. But even if you provide an option, there's present self. Sometimes you don't even provide an option. Just ask them the question as the answer explain. So what is your opinion about this generative AI that is being used in our institution? And as soon as they have answered their opinion, why? Explain why on this. Okay, so that is it. Under your qualitative, you have your case study. Case study involves a process whereby it's an in-depth exploration of a single individual, group, event, or phenomenon. The researchers gather detailed data information from various sources, such as interview observations, documents, and all the rest of them, in order to seek a comprehensive understanding of the situation. Now, you are not just asking them question. You observe what they do. You collect government reports, companies reports about that very situation in that very environment where you are conducting it. Let's assume you are collecting your data from Department of Education. After you have interviewed let's say your participant in that very place, you also collect policy documents, memos, and all the rest of them, to do what? To gather more information, to gather more data about what you are really seeking for. So that is your what? Your case study. Grounded theory is a systematic method for what? For developing theory based on empirical data. When we talk about empirical data, what we simply mean is that based on sometimes based on quality, based on primary data, or sometimes based on existing scientific knowledge. But in this case right now, you're collecting, you want to build your theory based on primary source of data. I will follow you. You want to understand based on what? Collecting data. So let's say I collect data, analyze the data to identify patterns, terms, and categories that emerge from the data itself, rather than what? Starting with preconceived theory or hypothesis. You are not basing it based on what you think or what you feel, but whatever you report, whatever theory you build is based on what people have provided, data you have collected and analyzed. So it's based on a primary source of data. Are we following? I wanna hear your voice. Are we following?
Yes, we are.
Okay. At least I'm not alone.
We're still here, Prof. Thank you.
Okay. So that is on the part of grounded theory. So your assumption, your reporting is based on what? Information that you acquired through um direct observation, empirical process. Sorry, uh, um process, lab processes, lab results, interview, data, interview. That's what? That's okay. Look at what people are saying about this, and whatever, and then you're able to develop that very theory, and that is what yeah, uh grounded theory enables you to achieve through that empirical data, first-hand data. And ethnograph is all about study of people and culture in a natural setting. The researcher immerse themselves in the social context being studied. Now, you want to understand a situation about a particular, the cultural way, the cultural influence of people on a particular system. You need to be on ground to see, to experience it. To experience it within that environment. By going to the field, we're going in there to see how do they really, how is life in that area, that will suggest their perception about this system. So you need to move from you need to be in that area to study, to see things for yourself. Okay, and that is it. You have your content analysis, which is what systematic method for analyzing textual, visual, audio, visual data. The researchers examine and interpret the content of the document, media, and other communication material to identify patterns, themes, and categories and meanings from it. Now, by the time you have collected this data, you want to build your teams. You want to build your categories from this data. And through your content analysis, it enables you to say, okay, to categorize your findings, to group your findings into teams, categories, groups. Phenomenological research focus on exploring and understanding the lived experience. So now you want to understand the lived experience of the people using social media. And today on the social media, we have a whole lot of deep fake videos and all the rest of them. Because generative AI today is is changing a lot of things on the social media in our environment. Now I want to understand the lived experience of the people who are using this technology in terms of what the impact of generative AI videos, images have on their psychological thinking, perception of reality. Example, yeah. How does these videos you see on TikTok and all the rest of them, videos and text and audios and everything, how does it affect their psychological mind, their perception of reality in life? So now that is this phenomenological research enables you to do what, to understand people's lived experience. Remember, because you're not talking about their perception, just like talking about people who have already experienced it. The wave of the generative AI videos and content online. So now, when you're looking at those kind of people who have that kind of first-hand experience of what you're talking about, phenomenological kind of strategy research can be used to be able to do what, to showcase um this lived experience of these people. Okay, so and then remember we have seen it on the qualitative, the quantitative, and now we're seeing it on the mixed method. On your mixed method, remember what is a mixed method, which is a combination of qualitative and quantitative research in one, right? So on this right now, you find out that when you have collected, when you want to do a mixed method research, there is a need for you to be able to understand how are you going to collect your data, how are you going to interpret your data and immerse your data together to become one, because you're not going to this is a one study, but you're using different approach to do what, to gain access to the knowledge, to the data the data you want to use to conduct your study. But each of them must aggregate together to form a single document. And for that to happen, there is what is called sequential explanatory design. Researchers first collect and analyze quantitative, and then follow up with what, qualitative data. Now you have collected your quantitative research, and then after that you needed more understanding about whatever that you have found on your quantitative research findings, results. Then now you have collected your quantitative research, you have analyzed it. Then now you form your opinion again. You go deeper to explain, to go and find out more about whatever the results you have found out in that very study, which will enable you now to do what, to complement whatever you have found on your quantitative, and it also enriches the data to also keep that. Remember, when people are saying, for example, on your quantitative, true or false, using your Likert scale measurement instrument, right? They're saying agree, disagree. You are When they say disagree, how, why did they disagree? You find out on your quantitative, on your qualitative, sorry, on your quantitative, is they say disagree and agree. That is the option they have taken, right? But now on your sequential explanatory design, you're able to say, okay, fine. You are saying disagree. What do you mean? In the first instance of your data, they only say disagree, agree. But now you are not taking those options to say, okay, when you disagree on this, what do you mean? Now they explain themselves why they disagree with that question, and then give more information on that. Convergent parallel design. In this convergent parallel design, researchers collect both quantitative and qualitative research at the same time, independently analyze the data, and then emerge the result for comparison and interpretation. The design enables the researchers to do or to translate the findings from different data sources. You are collecting the same time you're collecting the data at the same time. Now, what happened is that what your findings, you're able to do what, to analyze them and then embed them together to form a holistic. You analyze them individually as well. You're going to also bring the result together to form what, a single um outcome. Have embedded design, which word embed design involves one form of data collection, quantity or this, being primarily focused, while the other one collects supplementary or embedded within the primary. You may collect your primary, your quantitative data, then you supplement um, your data collection with a quantitative. You collect the qualitative, supplement with quantitative, quantitative with qualitative, vice versa. Transformative design, which involves which aim to use the mixed method to bring about social change or transformation in providing practical change in the system. You want to bring a paradigm shift on how people observe, on how people use the system, on how people to bring a total change on a particular study, using your study, that to bring that kind of change, you use your transformative design. You have your exploratory design, which been involved initial phase of quantitative data collection analysis to explore a research problem, then followed by what, the quantitative to justify or validate your findings. You have collected the first one, use this one to validate that. And that becomes your what? The exploratory research design strategy. Guys, are we following? Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. And we could have discussed this part before those strategy, but it's fine. But now, because we talked about we talked about quantitative, qualitative in the initial two of the initial present slides. Now, on this section, you find out that when you have done your research approach, you need to also discuss your now. Okay, this is gonna based on this theory formation or no theory formation. Fine, but now how are you gonna collect that data to form that theory, to justify that theory, and so on and so forth? Okay, and that brings us to the part of what, whether it's gonna be a quantitative or qualitative, whether you are building a theory or not building a theory. But at the end of the day, a data needs to be collected, whether secondary data or primary data. And that is what your research methodological choices enables you to achieve. Whether you want to do an interview, you want to conduct a survey, questionnaire, survey, it's based on what? The choice of your research methodology choice you have made. So now, in this, the quantitative, which I made mention of it before, this approach involves the collection and the analysis of numerical data to quantify relationships, patterns, and trends. Here I said approach because sometimes it can be used as a method, approach, design. That's why I said to you that you need to follow one, you need to adopt one structure and follow it to the end. If you see you're following research onion, use it to structure your methodology, both on your proposal and the particular chapter of your research methodology. Because these names are used interchangeably. A research design, a research methodology, and all that. Okay? So now, so when you want to collect numerical data, numbers, you are going to collect a quantitative, that you're going to conduct a quantitative research. Percentages of people that says what, number of people that says, that agree, that disagree. And then it aims to test hypotheses, identify relationships, make generable conclusion based on statistical analysis. That's the aim of your quantitative research method approach aims to achieve, that it will enable you to test hypothesis, the test hypothesis. Who says what says what, relationship between this, that, and that, correlation between this and that. Now, on your research, qualitative research, it focuses on exploring and understanding a complex phenomenon through in-depth examination of non-numerical data, such as interview observations and everything. Now, remember, in numbers, you're not gonna you're not gonna have in-depth knowledge about the problem in a quantitative research. Now, how, for example, you're asking a question to say, okay, what is your perception? Do you think that the generative AI is good for academic learning? You put options: agree, disagree, neutral. unsure, and all the rest of them. That if people say agree, so that alone, you don't have sufficient knowledge why they are agreeing on that. That is a quantitative research question. But if you put that question on your qualitative, what you are simply going to do is to explore, to get understanding. Why do you think generative AI is good for academic learning? They explain, they give you an example of why they think so, that their perception, their view on that. They give you example, they give you deeper knowledge, deeper explanation to get to why they are making that choice. The first instance example, they didn't give you any justification of their choice. But on your quantitative research, there is justification. You allow them to they will express themselves. You can even observe when they are talking on an interview. You can even watch. You can even see their body movement, the expression of themselves when they are answering that very question. When it's a face-to-face interview, you can remember interview have different types. You can even observe to see, okay, why do you think generative AI? Do you think generative AI is good for academic learning? And the person just is. You capture it. You capture the ejection, the emotions, and everything. Why the expressions, why they are talking. And then when they sign, then they talk. You can see that this, you can feel it when you are when the person, you can see from the action of that individual, that participant, while answering that very question. But in your quantitative, you don't see those things. Whether they are moody or not, when it doesn't show, and all the rest of them. So the observation, the textual analysis, which this can involve through your videos, through your audios, through your pictures and everything, you can analyze them. They can even draw it on paper, drawing an emoji, sad emoji or happy emoji or neutral emoji. You can capture those feelings, those things, those objections, those expressions. You cannot capture them on your qualitative um, research, and that is why it makes it what it bring deeper examination, deeper understanding of the phenomena of what you're trying to find. So this approach aims to uncover meanings, perspectives, experiences that may not easily be quantifiable in a quantitative research. So in a mixed method research, it's a it's a combined element of both quantitative and qualitative approach to provide a comprehensive understanding of the research problem. Now, because you want to look at a generative AI from the perspective of remember last week we talked about looking at generative AI. Okay, in academic environment, you have your lecturers, you have your students, you have non-academic lecturers, you have the management, you have and other stakeholders, right? But it's okay, fine. I'm going to look at this research from the perspective of lecturers and students, for argument's sake. Now, and because of that, these people don't have the same level of knowledge about the system or experience or whatever about the system, or they have different ideas, experiences, and everything about this topic of yours. But or now it's okay, fine. One, because you have these two different set of groupings, populations. Now, what do? You use your quantitative, use your mixed method. When you use your mixed method here, that you want to gain deeper knowledge about this problem from the perspective of these two groupings of participants, lecturers and students. So your mixed method enables you to do what? To gain deeper knowledge from that, from and achieving what one method cannot achieve. That is your mixed method. That is the essence of using mixed method. So by integrating data and data collection and analysis techniques from both paradigm, from both methods and all the rest of them, the researchers can triangulate findings and gain more holistic perspective and insight into the topic. Now, you ask the question, the same question that you use the same research objective, the same research questions. But now you're asking these people based on their level of understanding. Tell your perception about generative AI in academic environment. The students will say, will give you this response because students are more in numbers. The best option to use is what you use a quantitative research. You want to look at the massive number of participants, students on in the now use your quantitative method to get data from students, and lecturers have are lesser in numbers. You use your qualitative, sorry. Students are what? Quantitative. Lecturers are what? Qualitative. You provide questionnaires to the students. You provide interview to the lecturers. So it's very advisable when you're doing mixed method. Try to use different research methods to address it. You can't be using quantitative in a, you call it mix. No, mix is what? When you're using quantitative, quali, and quanti, that becomes your mix. And then you're using you can be using interview on both ends or questionnaire on both ends. You use questionnaire and an interview or observation and or something or similar. Okay, and that so now by so doing, the knowledge you gain this knowledge of numeric numbers from students. You get what non-numeric data from lecturers. By combining those together, you are going to have an enriched data. Okay. Okay. Now, very important, guys. In the process of you doing your research methodology, I did mention of that last week. When you are writing your research methodology, it's very important to bear this in mind. On every aspect of your research methodology, from start to finish, on every component of it, bear these three keywords: the what, the why, and the how. These three keywords enables you to do what? To provide a holistic, let me put it this way, 360-degree angle of your research methodology component. You explain it from different angles, from full angle. Look at it from full angle, not from one perspective. Let me explain them. Now, in your research philosophy, remember we have a number of philosophies, right? And in your study, you're going to use one. For example, you're going to use one among those philosophies. But now, you have explained to the reader that there are different kinds of research philosophies. You're able to give brief explanation of each, or few of them, not all of them, few of them. You provide your citations. And what you have simply done is your what. You see, it deals with the actual explanation of the content. For example, you explain the context research approach or questionnaire, backing it up with literature sources, citation. Very, very, very important. Excellently well. But now, it doesn't end there. What we're asking, okay, you have explained this thing, and bear it in mind that the person that will be reading your work knows whatever you are writing, knows what is quantitative, knows what is positivism, interpretism, research, philosophy. He or she knows it. right? But if you end there, the question is this: okay, what are you? Okay, which one is your study gonna use? So now, for the fact you are giving brief explanation of some of them, for the sake of this study we use this. You explain it as well, and then you justify why do you select that one among others, and that is your what? Why? You justify every research methodology component used in the study. You cannot tell me that I'm going to use interpretism research philosophy. Okay, you're gonna use it. Why? How? That's the question I'm gonna ask you. If you say this research will use this and you stop, then I'm gonna ask you, okay, why and how? You see? So the first one you say you discuss others. You say the study will adopt this. You stop there. I'll ask why and how. So this involves what? Providing empirical justification to prove the reason for your choice, among others. When you say you're going to use quantitative research, remember there is mix, there is qualitative, but you have chosen to use a quantitative research method. Why do you choose that? So justify it by what? Provide empirical proof to show that what? I am going to use this method for this reason. Similar studies have been done by social person, by social author, by social author. They have found this. So if I use this, it's going to enable me to establish this, because this is a popular based on empirical research. You put citation based on this. It's been advised that when you are doing this kind of topic, look at the best method to use. Are you following, guys?
Yes, Prof, we're still here.
Okay, so you are telling me now, being the reader, that other researchers have suggested that when you are doing this kind of research topic, because you have seen five authors that have done similar topic use this. So you are following that very trend. Remember, research is a process. It's a procedural exercise, writing that follows pattern, what has been established there before. I have done it. You have done it. If someone wants to, the person will say, okay, the person will quote you and me, and for the basis of that selection. And that is what that justification why you have chosen that, because A, B, C, D have authors have used it. You are following that their trend. But remember, you're going to write it in academic way. Guys, are we following? And that is it. Okay. So, and that should be in every component of your research. So it says justify the reason for choosing a particular component of your research method. How? It says provide a suitable and sufficient process or procedure on how this choosing component of your research methodology will be applied in the study. For example, give scenario on how the questionnaire was or will be used. I have chosen this because if I use it, it's going to help me to achieve this. I have choose quantitative, and I'm going to choose I've choose quantitative research. When I use quantitative research, it's going to enable me to collect this kind of data, which is the quantitative data. And then you provide what? Citation. One of the key things that enables one to believe in your proposal, in your study, that whatever you are talking about makes sense. It's okay, is when you provide citations. That is why I said last week that what? Always bring in enough citations to justify whatever you have written. You're still going to add your own voice, which I demonstrated last week. That by the time you say, okay, I'm going to use it based on this and so person, that this going to align to your research objective and of your objective. So and so person use this. So you saying this going to align to your research objective, mean what? That is, you're talking about yourself. That is your own tone you're adding there. So always bring your own tone when you are writing your research, not only citation throughout. No, bring in your own tone, because it's gonna show that you really understand what you are writing. You are mastering what you are writing. You are demonstrating knowledge in what you are doing. Okay, so that is very important. So give a scenario how the questionnaire was developed, was used, or will be used in your study in the case of your research proposal. And that is how you have to apply these three keywords: what, why, and how in your study methodology, to be precise. I have seen a situation whereby most people always stop at what, when they will go in detail explaining different kinds of all those components in details. That is not necessary. One line is enough to explain the one you're not going to use. There are different kinds of research methodology. Quantitative is this, qualitative is this. You provide your citation here and there. A mixed method is this. For the sake of this study is this. I normally advise people to say, okay, by the time you have discovered that first paragraph that talks about everything, the second section should have maybe a heading or say the method used in the study, something like that, to stand it out, to make it obvious that, look at, I've discussed a little brief on all of these things. Look at the one I'm going to use in this very study. You have a heading there, subheading there, the method, the method used in the study. That's when now you go deeper to explain the what, how you why you make that choice against all others, and then how you're gonna use it. Provide all those scenarios, all those examples, the citations are here and there. Bet me, you are good to go. That shows that what, you have demonstrated enough knowledge that what, you are not just writing, but you are also demonstrating how and why you have made your choice. Are we following, guys? Very important. We are rounding up this very evening, and I cannot stop without mentioning this section. Every aspect of our presentation lesson, we're going to be seeing this citation and references. Very important. In-text reference is very important. Whether you are an expert in that field, whether you are writing on something that you do every day at the place of work, always provide citation. Academic writing is built on existing knowledge, citations. So your proper in-text referencing is very important, which demonstrates you are acknowledging the source of your knowledge, where you get that very idea when you're talking about generative AI, prompt engineering, and so on and so forth. And then make sure that you provide all your in-text references. They are all listed on your reference list. And I said it last week that one of the best ways for you to manage this is to use EndNote and other tools to manage your in-text citations. If you use EndNote, automatically as soon as you cite something and you drop it and you put it on EndNote, you drop it into your referencing, automatically it will export the references into your referencing list, and automatically you're not going to lose out on any of your references. If you're using traditional method whereby you are not using any of those tools, then meaning that as soon as you cite something in your document, please don't wait. Go to your Google Scholar, get the referencing, put it on your referencing list. Case close. Okay, before I go to this part, anything again? So in conclusion, guys, okay, in conclusion, research methodology provides the pathway in carrying out your research. So whether you have, no matter how beautiful and how interesting your topic, your research proposal can be, if you don't have the right research methodology provided, you're not going to achieve that very research. So the research methodology is the critical part of your research process. So the research philosophy shaping the process. The research process is built on theory, but the what and the why is critical in galvanizing how, what, how, why you have made your choice. Please don't every component, every section of your research methodology that you're going to be talking about on your philosophy, for example, put them in totality. The what, the why, and the how must stand out. If not, that section is incomplete. Okay, thank you. Any question? Okay.